If you listen to the show, you already know that we cannot exist without our sponsors. They are the ones who make things happen behind the scenes. So let's acknowledge Fuji Sports. We've been working with these guys for a while now, not only as far as this podcast is concerned, but also at the RŌL Academy. We've had their gear. I personally use their gis. What a phenomenal product.
Yeah, I mean, jiu-jitsu, judo, MMA, tape, bags, anything you need for your jiu-jitsu journey, you can find at fujisports.com.
Let's talk RŌL TV. There's so much content on there. It's ridiculous at this point. But I think what is even more intriguing, as time went on during the project, we've been recording most of the events that were taking place here at RŌL Academy. At this point, I mean, we have guys like Chris Howder, Armor Fati, Rafael Lovato Sr., and Pete the Greek. I mean, there were so many different events that we've kind of recorded it. Don't you think that's amazing? I mean, points of reflection and kind of going back for all the students to see what really happened and refresh their memory.
Yeah, I think it's great, you know, being able to go back and look at all these high-level practitioners, Octavio Cudo, like one of the names you didn't mention. And I mean, just these guys that have been doing this for so long come in, teach these amazing seminars and workshops, and it's all recorded and there for you to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to get additional savings on all this, type in code RŌL Radio at the coupon and get additional 30% off of your membership.
Nice. Go to rolacademy.tv. What's up, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please remember to hit the like, share, subscribe, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. That ensures that we can continue bringing you the great guests and amazing content that you have come to expect. Today's guest joins us to discuss how, as a kid, he had to hustle to make money to compete, his move to the United States with only a couple $100 and not being able to speak English, how, as a black belt, he didn't let getting tapped by a purple belt discourage him, and more. Here's the RŌL Radio with Lucas Rocha, black belt, BJJ instructor, former AJP #1 ranked athlete, and second place ADCC finisher, Gabriel Sousa.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we are live. Today we have something new going on because Gary is not here and we have Edgar replacing him. So Edgar, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
That's one. But two, Professor Gabriel, thanks for joining us today. How are you today?
Hello. Sorry, cut it off a little bit.
How are you doing today? You doing good?
I'm doing amazing. What about you guys? Everything good?
We're doing fabulous. Thanks for joining us today. I think what's interesting about you as a jiu-jitsu practitioner and well accomplished with quite a bit of credentials behind, you know, last several years. Do you feel like you've accomplished a lot in jiu-jitsu?
Yes. Maybe not comparing to the big like names. A lot of people have won like world like multiple times on the black belts. I haven't won any IBJJF world title yet. But like I think throughout my career, like on the color belts and also on the black belt, I have won some titles. But I also like I have become a better person. I have like helped so many people, including my family. So I think for me that's what is important the most. Like of course, like winning world titles would be amazing for my career, myself, and tell people that I won multiple times black belt world champion. But yeah. I'm happy with what I have accomplished so far. We have big goals coming up, and I think the biggest like accomplishment that I can talk about would be World Pro in the black belt, and I placed second at ADCC. So yeah.
I mean, all of this, like when I'm looking at the list of what you've done so far, it is quite impressive. Even though you're saying that there is so much more to be done, right? Like when you were starting jiu-jitsu at the very beginning, were you thinking about all these accomplishments? Were you thinking about making an impact as you have made so far, and there's so much ahead?
Not at all. I just start training jiu-jitsu for fun and to be close to my older brother. So I'm the youngest of 7 kids, and my older brother, like he started doing martial arts first, and he started jujitsu, and then 3 months later he invited me to go check it out. So when I went to the gym, there was like no kids class and adults class. Was everybody pretty much training together, but there was not many kids. I think the youngest person was training was Hobson. He was like 15 years old. So it's like, and I was 12. So it's like we was close the age, but we were basically the only two teenagers, like kids on the mat, and everybody else was adult. But like my first class was fun because like I was trying to do things that I had no idea how to do on the adults, and they made it like very safe and fun for me. So I was like, hey, I just want to stick with it, like it looks fun for me. Also, I start judo at the same time. Back then, I was 12, 13, but judo is very different from jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah.
And then you need to be very formal, very disciplined. Not that jiu-jitsu doesn't. You're not like you have to be as well, but judo is way more strict with that and way different. Especially like growing up in kids in Brazil, they are very strict with judo. So I felt like I don't really like judo because they are way more restrict than jiu-jitsu. I can go to jiu-jitsu to have fun, and judo is like was kind of the army for me. So like I kind of like the fight, but being very restrict, that is not what I not like about it. So I just speak jiu-jitsu and I stick with it. But when I first start jiu-jitsu, it was pretty much to burn energy. I was always like very active kid, very active. So I started like athleticism when I was young. They had like some social project nearby my house. Used to play soccer like probably every single day with my friends on the neighborhood. I was like, we were just running around and then like find something like to be very active. And then got in a point that like my mom was trying to get me away from the streets. Like the kids of my age was getting involved with a lot of things. And then my mom was like, okay, I don't want you to be hanging out with those people because you pretty much become one of them, right? By hanging out and seeing them, because they're going to start setting an example that on their eyes and on your eyes as a kid, like, you're becoming an adult, you make money, maybe whatever you're doing. So like, that's kind of cool. You're going to be a cool kid for whoever thinks it's going to be cool. But my mom like, nah, you're not hanging out with them. So, and then she started putting me on social projects and doing sports, and basically end up in jiu-jitsu.
What sports did you play?
Soccer mainly on the street, basically. But I tried judo. When I started jiu-jitsu, I tried judo, but also I did capoeira, right?
Oh, okay.
It's very famous in Brazil.
Oh,
capoeira
yeah.
is big in Brazil. So I did capoeira and athleticism, like tracking.
Track, yeah.
So yeah, so
your brother started. So your brother started jiu-jitsu, and then how long does he train before you start?
3 months.
3 months.
Because there was no kids class back then.
Yeah.
So he was like, oh, today's Friday, the training is more chill. It was no gi too. So I was like, do you want to go come and watch? So I went to watch with him, but like the people are like, oh, come on the mat. I was like, come have fun, come play. So I was like, okay, let's do it, and I just try it out and I love it.
Did you know what jiu-jitsu is at that point? Like, do you know what it is, or you just like going completely not knowing anything?
I went completely like not knowing anything. Just like, oh, we're going to fight, but you cannot punch. You cannot kick anybody. You're going to try to control each other, basically. But like, imagining a kid like I was very confident. So I'm going to beat those adults. I'm going to hold them. I'm going to do whatever I can, but I'm going to beat them and win.
Did you beat them?
I was very competitive. No. I mean, in my mind, yes. I believe yes, but I was always very competitive. Growing up, I had a brother 2 years older than me. So he was very good, like Hilton. And then we always compete about anything. Who's going to run faster home? Who's going to do whatever. We could create like competitions for anything, So it's like, going to a sport that like someone's going to win. I want to do this, So that was really fun.
So you said you were one out of 7 siblings. Is that what you said?
That's right.
Did you compete with all of them? Like, was the
No,
dynamic
so
between everybody or just your brother?
just my brother who is 2 years older than me, because
Yeah.
we pretty much grew up together. Like growing up, you have role models, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't have as much contact with my older brother because he was going to college, he was working. So in Brazil, it's kind of like you get home very late and you leave home very early. You know what I mean? So it's like I
Mhm.
didn't have much time, play time, or like fun time with my older brother and my 4 sisters. So there was like one boy, girls, and then 2 boys, right?
Mhm.
So the 4 sisters as well. Between the boys, they were always like working as well when studying. So I didn't have much like uh, connection, I would say, and play time with them. But my brother, who is 2 years older than me, we used to do pretty much everything together. Growing up, like we had to go to school together, and then play video games, and then play on the street. So it's like he was my competition just because the age was very close. So I had someone like, okay, and then whatever my brother would do, I want to do as well because like, hey, I want to be like my brother. I was like, oh, he's wearing I don't know, a glass. I want to wear a glass. Like he was pretty much my role model. I
Yeah.
was like, I want to be like him.
Talk about the first day. You go to jiu-jitsu. You have some. I mean, you're very athletic. You do sports, and your brother does it 3 months. You go to the first class, and they pull you onto the mat. How does
Yeah.
it feel for a 12-year-old boy to train with all of these adults? Like in your mind, you're saying, "Oh, I can beat all of them," but we know that's not the reality, right? Like if things
Yeah.
are for different, a little bit differently, right? What's going through your mind? Like what are you thinking about that
Uh,
moment?
so I remember like they taught me how to do a Toriano pass and then get on full mount. That was basically what they taught me on that Friday. They like, and then there's an hour I was trying to do like Toriano and then go to full mount, but it kept very fun because they would like recover the guard and I had to do it again. Like so in my mind, every time I get on full mount and try to hold them down, I was winning. So I was like, oh, that's actually very fun. I can do the things that they teaching me on the first day. I already can do with them that have been training jiu-jitsu for at least more time than I am. So that's pretty fun. So it's like I just went like I didn't have intentions to train honestly because I went to the class to watch my older brother to train, and I ended up training and ended up like having a lot of fun. And then I think like there was no kids around, so maybe they was trying to like to introduce jiu-jitsu to kids as well. And I think there was a great opportunity. They're like, oh no, join us. And then they was trying to make it fun. It's still with jiu-jitsu moves, but they was uh making sure that I was having a great time.
Yeah. So at which point are you thinking to yourself that this is what I want to do in my life? Like at which point this becomes so addictive? At which point you are sucked into this?
I was probably an orange belt. So I started a social project, and the training was Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then I kept going, right? And I was not talent at all. I don't know, the kids used to make so much fun of me because I was not physically strong. I was always the smallest one and the like strength wise the weakest, right? So, but I love it. I love the fact that I was challenging myself and then eventually things would change. People like, no, it's fine. You're going to grow up. You're going to get stronger. So I was like, I was like very disciplined. I didn't care about like losing a training for my training partners, but I was there Monday to Friday. There was like school in the morning, afternoon I would do like help my mom at house or something like things in the house that I had to do. And at night I had to train jiu-jitsu, go back home, eat, and go to bed. That was pretty much like my routine Monday to Friday. Saturday I would hang out with the kids, and then Sunday go to church. That was basically my life growing up. So at orange belt, I start to be like, oh, now I have skills. Now I can actually control people. I can make them tap. I can choke them out. I knew what was a armbar. I knew how to play guard, how to pass guard. So I was like, oh, now it's even more fun because now I know what to do. I'm not anymore like a lost kid, but like, I know how to do things from everywhere. I know how to take people down. I know how to defend takedowns. And so I was like, it became fun, right? I remember like on the orange belt also was like, there was a bunch of kids and they used to beat me up or give me a hard time. Even I was like I was a higher ranking than most of them, but they were like physically stronger. So they could like hold me or use the strength or easily escape, stuff like that. Right? When you are a kid, like 5 kilos is already like a lot of different, like 10 pounds for a
Oh
kid
yeah.
like who's already like athletic, it's gonna be different. So I was like, when I was an orange belt and like that's 10 pounds didn't make much difference. So I was like, oh, that's actually fun. I was like, wow. And
Did
then
you beat
like
them up then?
most of them, yes. And I still do it when I go back home. And then like most of them don't show up to train. Especially like when I was a blue belt and there was like brown belts beating me up. Now when I go back home, they don't show up to train when I'm there. I'm like, come on, guys. That's my turn now to beat you up.
Payback
But
time, huh?
I know. But the time that I decided that jiu-jitsu I want to do that for my life. So was when I went from Fortaleza, which is northeast of Brazil, to São Paulo. So it's like 4 hours flight. For some people, might not be like something special, but I come from a poor family. My family never had money. They never was able to pay my expenses to compete. I always had so many people helping me. Like that's why I always try to give back to jiu-jitsu and my friends and social projects whenever I can, because thank God I had so many, like I call them angels, like people, God sent them on my way, so I couldn't like go to wrong hands or wrong path and stick with jiu-jitsu forever. So I remember like people would pay my registration, my tickets, give me money to food, and I was just like, wow, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then I went from Fortaleza to São Paulo, and then I won the tournament, and then I went back home and I was like, it felt like I won world's IBJJF black belt for me as a kid, as an orange belt who never went to any other state. It was just like so awesome, and I was like, I want to
Was
stick
that
with it.
was that the first time you traveled that far outside of your hometown?
Yes.
Were you
First time
scared?
ever,
I mean,
I was very.
how old are you at that point? Like you're a young teenager, right?
I was 14 or 15 if I'm not wrong. But the
So
cool
hold on.
things like
So
yeah,
you're
sorry.
14 and you're getting on a plane and you're flying. Do you know anybody where you're going?
So I went there with my professor
Okay.
Jefferson and my best friend Uncas. We were the same age, but he was a white belt. And the guy that I said when I started training, Hobson, he
Yeah.
was there, so he flew with us as well. So at that point, Hobson was our purple belt, I believe. Uncas was a white belt, and I was an orange belt. And then we went with our professor who had family there, so we stayed with them because we didn't have money to pay hotel. So it was so much fun, you know what I mean? So it was like I was going there with my friends doing jiu-jitsu. I remember that also I was very, very, very nervous because that was the first time ever that I saw like Leandro Lo in person, Miao Brothers, Luisa
Wow.
Montero, all the people from jiu-jitsu who live in São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro were competing worlds from CBJJE. It was very famous in Brazil.
Yeah.
So I was just like, I'm living my dream.
Talk about some of these guys, because a lot of people who are listening to this right now, they look up to them. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, those are well established leaders and jiu-jitsu
Yeah.
community, and at that point of time you are a young man, 14 years old. Not only you are traveling first time outside of your town, your mom is not around, you just going to do this jiu-jitsu, and then you stumble upon Meow Brothers, or you stumble upon Lounge Low. I mean, what's in your mind? Like, are you like starstruck? Like, what's in your mind?
Pretty much, like it felt like I was meeting someone from a movie. That was
Yeah.
like I would never see anybody from a movie in person, and they are like competing in front of me. It was just
Yeah.
like I want to be one of them. they are very cool. You know what I mean? Like it feels like it's a dream too far away because in my hometown back then there was no many like high levels. I think like black belts were champion living in my city. So I was like, oh, so going to São Paulo and meet all those people was a shock for me. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I was just a kid. I was like, I didn't even. It's still a shock for me, but I didn't even know how big they were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then later on, I go back home, and then people are like, "Oh, you met them?" I'm like, I mean, I saw them competing. I shake their hand. I took pictures with them. They're like, "That's amazing." You know what I mean? So I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." You know, it's like it's one of the dreams that when I start watching jujitsu, it was like far, far, far away, right? And then it just happened when I went to fight the same tournament they were fighting. So I was like, oh, that's crazy.
Is
You know
that
what I
the
mean?
moment? Is that the moment where you're thinking to yourself, I want to do this for a living. I want to do this rest of my life?
There was the moment that like because like I was able to fly from my city to São Paulo, I was like, I want to keep doing that because like I will be able to travel more often, and then eventually I will travel international to compete IBF Worlds, Pan Am's, Europeans, and I'm gonna visit so many countries throughout Jiu-Jitsu to teach. You know, that was the life that growing up was interest for me. You know, and then thank God, like it happened though. I lived the dream, like especially the people like who follow me on Instagram. Every month I get to go 2 3 countries. Like in the last 2 months I was in Brazil. I went to New York. I was in Australia for 3 weeks, and now I'm back in the US. So I'm competing next month in Thailand, and then from there I go back to Vietnam to see some friends, hang out, vacation. I go to Japan. So it's like I'm living something that before was like far away. It was a dream. I'm basically living it, and then I love it. I wouldn't change it for anything, honestly.
So back then, did you see yourself teaching jujitsu as well, or just competing as like being a professional athlete and competing?
Just competing, because I never had like, oh, I can actually make money with jiu-jitsu teaching people. My idea
Yeah.
was like, I'm gonna make money fighting and being a good athlete, so I can have a good sponsor, so I can travel the world. They pay me, I can get like cash prize and stuff, you know. And eventually, it switched, right? Well, I have to teach to make money to live. So when I was in Brazil, it was very, very hard to compete like anywhere, right? I was doing like raffles, you know, like when you sell numbers and
Hmm.
then I'm gonna pick a number, someone wins something, a cash prize or whatever. I was doing that like to make money to try to live my dream when I was a blue belt. Juvenile and adult, I used to do make those a lot. A lot of athletes in Brazil unfortunately do that just because it's the beginning. Nobody believe on you. If you
Yeah.
don't come for a family who doesn't have money, it's like, all right, try your best. So like, I believe like a lot of people would buy those just to support me. They didn't even care what was the cash prize. They're like, here, $100, 10 Brazilian real, 20. Go there. Oh, can I pay a registration? I'm like, yes, please. Like, all right, I'm gonna pay a registration. It got in a point that like I was traveling to state, but I had to do so many of those that I was like, I need to find a job with jiu-jitsu. And then in Brazil was kind of hard because back then was even harder, I believe. And I was like, and then I went to US for the first time. I placed silver, second place at IBF Worlds. So I was like, I need to leave Brazil. I need to find a job and then teach jiu-jitsu. And I remember like,
So hold
yeah,
on, hold on. Before we move over to US, because
okay,
there's a next chapter of your life, right?
okay,
But before we
yeah,
get there, let's talk about Brazil just a little bit more, because I feel like you've gone through a lot of hard life before you moved to US,
yeah,
and a lot of people would give up. A lot of people
sure.
would say, I don't care. This is not worth it. I can do many other things. I don't need this jujitsu stuff. This is way too hard. Like, I can have an easy job making money. You know, what is driving you forward? Like, why you are not quitting? I mean, you are such a young man. You can do anything in your life at that point, but you're like stubborn. Do this jujitsu. There's so much love behind it. Why?
I think it was just like I believe it was part of the process. It's like in my mind, like it's not gonna turn like from water to gold in one day or 2 days or in a week. It's a process. And I always believe that like as much as I work hard, you get it back. So it's like training. I remember like training 2 or 3 times a day and then not having like a diet or supplement to really like supply my necessities to go training the next day. I remember like as much as effort I can put it right now, sooner or later you bring it back. So it's like every time that I will go compete, like especially those tournaments that I had to take a flight to go, and I was like, all right, it's paying off. It's like I'm traveling to another city, I'm meeting great people. Maybe I make some cash prize, maybe not. I remember like growing up as a juvenile, I used to compete my weight class and open class juvenile and adults as well to make money. So I used to win like double gold juvenile and double gold adult to be able to pay my expenses to travel the world.
I
Uh,
mean,
and it,
that sounds crazy. You're a juvenile. You compete as
yeah,
adult open weight class.
yeah, and I used to beat them.
Well, that's a different story now,
I
right?
was,
Your mom,
I was,
your mom, your mom had to be proud of you. Like, think about
she
this:
was,
you
100%,
you off the streets. You're not hanging out with the bad guys. There is actually a success behind what you do. You you
100%.
are you're actually winning things. Like you're putting your life together, and you're still so young at that time, right? I mean, she had to be
Yes,
proud.
100%. And then she was one of my biggest supporters as well. Like I remember like the numbers that I used to sell. She used to like, all right, you have anything? I'm gonna sell to people, to her friends in the neighborhood. Like even when I go back home in Brazil, everybody knows me. So it makes me like very happy to know that like, oh, your mom, like, I remember like she's selling everything like to trying to help you to go to those tournaments. And then now like I became a successful athlete, like today I live in the US because it's better to do business with jiu-jitsu and I have a way more quality life. But I also like I've been traveling the whole world since I was like since brown belts. I've been traveling the world and I help people and then winning tournaments. I believe like winning tournaments is not the biggest accomplishment that someone would have because all of this, all the medals and all the trophies gonna get dust. In 5, 10 years,
So
nobody will remember.
what's a bigger accomplishment? Many people will love to be a world champion. Many people would
Yes,
want to be a Pan Am champion or whatever gold medal they might dream of. But you're saying there's something bigger than that. What is it?
help my family. It's like I'm young now, but like I started helping my family when I was probably 21, 22. I was like helping my family different ways. It's like I come from a poor family, so it's like everybody in Brazil has to hustle, have to stud, and then it's hard to get paid. And I help two of my brother and sisters to buy their own apartment. So it's like I help them like doing things like that. That's what matters for me. It's like, and also I helped a lot of friends like going to a big tournament, sometimes like helping them to pay registration flights. So it's like not even friends, some people like come on Instagram, they ask me for help and I'm just like I was there one day. It's like it really like it touched me like I need to help them, especially like a lot of kids in Brazil. I know it was hard because I've been there in the same situation. So it's like I will help them. It's gonna cost me $30 to pay someone's registration for a big tournament like in Brazil. So like I will help you. So it's like giving back to the community. I remember people helping me and they're like, oh, in my mind, I'm like, I owe you so much and stuff like that. I didn't know how to be like grateful. Like I was trying to be the best that I could. And the people, I remember like 3 or 4 guys, like doctors and people who has business, they're like, I don't want anything back from you. Just be a good person and then give it back to jiu-jitsu. Later on, when you're successful, it's gonna be a lot of people trying to grow on the sport, trying to make a name, try to make a name from it, try to help them, teach them the way. So it's like with all my experience that most of the things that I've been through um, would made a lot of people quit, like I said. But like with my experience, I go there and teach them like, hey, I did this wrong. You should have been doing that. Don't do this. Avoid those things. It's not gonna get you anywhere. Go this way. So it's like helping with money, but also it's like being able to guide people and then giving like good like tips about jiu-jitsu, about life, the steps that they should be taking, the investment they should be taking to get their life and athlete career to the next level. So for me, it's priceless. It's like my family is everything that I have, honestly. Like I have like nephews and nieces, and my brothers are all old. I don't care about them, honestly. Like, but my nephews and nieces, like they are everything for me. Family, when I left home, I realized how important family is. It's like when you
Do
have
you
your
miss
family
them?
near, I miss them so much every day.
It
I
must
think
be
the thing
hard.
that like
It must be hard
it
living
is,
on a
but
completely different continent.
it's super hard, and especially like for bringing them to visit me, it's gonna be so much money. Like they will spend so much money just applying visas and then getting a passport and stuff like that. That like I believe is not worth it. I can go in Brazil when I go there, try to stay as much as I can, have quality time, and it hurts me. It's painful, but I also like everything that I accomplished in my life. I have to sacrifice that, right? The family time, the quality time, and then whenever I go back home where I can help them, I'm like, all right, this was worth it. Unfortunately, maybe nowadays in Brazil, if I could go back, I would be better, like being an athlete in Brazil, just because the name that I have. I'm pretty sure like who's number one, big events would be inviting me and then paying my tickets and everything for me to go fight for them. But when I was starting a brown belt, a purple belt, I doubt it. Just because,
Yeah,
like, we have so many good athletes here in the U.S. that will pay $300 in the purse to fight. Why I'm gonna bring you from Brazil? Doesn't make no sense. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
But
Yeah. Well,
that's
let's
I think that
let's talk about you coming to US.
okay.
That's like a new chapter of your life. And
Yes.
one, you traveling across the ocean. You're going to a completely different continent, right? But
Yes.
two, um the cultural difference between
Yes.
Brazil and United States. How did you
Uh,
feel coming here? How did you feel, doing jujitsu here? How did you feel about, just literally leaving everything behind and coming, starting this life from the beginning almost?
um, came to US with I believe $200 or $300. Feel like ripped geese and my clothes that I have in Brazil, and I didn't even know English at all. It's like not even the basic to communicate with nobody. For the first time that I came, I had some American lady. She used to sponsor our social project in Brazil. So somehow she found the Facebook page, I believe, from our social project where we used to put the kids' picture competing and then stuff like that. So she first helped like the social project by buying T-shirts for them, the kids. She used to send money to put the kids to compete because the neighborhood that I grew up, even back then, was like it's very hard. You know what I mean? Like gangs, a lot of drugs going around, a lot of shit going around. So it's like we had this social project. It was created from me and four more friends. I was a blue belt juvenile. Today, unfortunately, the social project doesn't exist anymore just because it's very dangerous. My hometown. So it's like we're not trying to take risk and putting kids' lives in risk as well. But when I moved to US was like I was living my dream, you know what I mean? It's like I need to sacrifice my family and the loved ones, right? I need to not leave them behind, but I need to live far away from them. But that's going to be the only way that I will succeed in life through jiu-jitsu. If I want to keep living from jiu-jitsu, in my mind, I have to do it. So I was like, my first intention was like, I'm going to go to US. I'm gonna live there for 6 months. I will learn English. I will try to make as much money as possible so I can pay registration. I can come back to Brazil and then maybe a couple months later go to Europeans and then go back to Pans, Worlds, and then work again. So that was my intention, like go to US, make money, go back to Brazil for a while, see my family, hang out, train in Brazil, and then compete. And I was just living something that so many people wanted, and then for me it was not even like hard. You know what I mean? People are like, "Oh, you came here with no English. It must be super hard." I'm like, that was not. That was just so easy because I was like chasing my dream. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So everything felt natural for me. In people's mind, like, oh, it was, oh my God, you left home at 19 years old. I'm like, oh, that's why I'm so smart and I don't depend on nobody because I had
Do
to do
Do
it
you
when I
know
was 19.
anybody when you come here?
I knew Lucas Rocha. He's a
Okay.
black belt.
Yeah.
He has his own team, Logic, in Arcadia. So when I first moved, I went to teach on his gym. So that was pretty much like people there. There was a lot of people who speak Spanish, so they kind of like tried to help me, but I was like, "Don't speak Spanish with me. I don't want to learn Spanish not right now. I need to learn English. Teach me how to speak English, and then I learn Spanish." So like, I understand a lot of Spanish. I can talk here and there, but I was just trying to like learn English as quick as possible. You know, I remember like I was training and then going to iPad to search something on YouTube to teach me English, or trying to watch like Breaking Bad. That was the first TV show that I watched everything in English. And then most of the things I didn't understand because I didn't know the language. But I remember like whatever they say like multiple times, I like stop, write it down, translate, and then like, all right, keep going. Stop, write it down, translate. So I was like, I never been to school. The English that I know was living, basically traveling the world, trying to teach jiu-jitsu, being like open mind to learn from anybody. You know, especially like I have when I start teaching, I used to tell my students like, don't be afraid to correct me. Don't let me speak wrong. You know, like just don't make fun. If you make fun of someone because they're speaking wrong,
Yeah.
they're gonna be afraid of talking.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
gonna, besides helping me, you're not helping at all. So,
Yeah.
but don't let me speak wrong. I don't care if you correct me in front of everybody. I don't care. Just tell me like, hey, your pronunciation might be wrong. Maybe you're trying to say this, but it's a different word. Because there is some words like it's the same English and Portuguese, but has a different like way to speak. Or
Yeah.
sometimes we just create like a way to say some Portuguese word in English, but doesn't make no sense. You know what I mean? But at first they would not correct me, so I was like, "Why are you guys letting me speak wrong? I know that's not a word. I know I'm making up things, but you guys not helping me." And then eventually they like, okay, I need to correct him, and then eventually I pick it up. My English is not perfect. A lot of things I still cannot talk about, like especially like if you're not talking about life or jiu-jitsu, but I try my best. My girlfriend's she's British. I mean, she's Welsh, so she speaks English as well. So she corrects me a lot, and I think like we've been dating for a year, so my English definitely like got way better because I have that's the only way that we can communicate is English, you know.
Yeah.
So it's great though.
Well, your English is just fine. Let me tell you. Yeah.
Thank you,
for, for
thank
for
you,
for what you've done, I mean, it's amazing. It's very impressive, actually. But
thank you so
I'm
much.
seeing like this the same thing unfolding in your life. You never take the easy path. You always look for somebody to set you back to your success, and like you don't take no for an answer. The obstacles, you try to figure them out. And where
Yeah,
many, and we talked about this already, but like many people would give up. Like many
yeah,
people would say, forget about this English part, just speak to me in Portuguese, or like talk to me in
Spanish.
my
Yeah.
language. Right? Like
Yes.
why are you like trying to do the harder things? What's your thought behind that?
I just wanted to learn as quick as I could, because I was like, if I learn that quicker, it's gonna be one less task to do. Like
Yeah.
this amount of hours that I'm planning to learn a language every day. So like I could make it less, but it would take longer for me to speak the language. I was like, no, 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 let's do it quick. Let's get it done. You know what I mean? Like my mind was like, let's get it done. And I remember like I was teaching kids class on my own and with one coach in 6 weeks living in the US. Like teaching kids. I know that like sometimes it might be easier to teach kids, but imagine like a kid like you teach a technique, probably like saying a lot of wrong words. A kid raise the hand like, can I have a question? How do I do this? In my mind, I was like, I had to figure it out. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Maybe I didn't understand. I asked the coach, which was American as well, like, hey, what did he say? Can you help me? I didn't understand. So she would answer him because she was also like a brown belt. So it was like, I had to figure it out as soon as I can. Whenever I figure it out, one last task, one more last thing to focus on life, and I can figure out the next steps. So it's
Is that
like
how your jiu-jitsu is too? Is trying to
basically
figure stuff out, trying to
pretty
tell me
much.
what I'm doing wrong, let me fix this. I don't want
Yes.
to repeat the same mistake over and over and over. Let's get this going. Let's not lose time.
Yes, especially like when I do mistakes competing, I like to watch my own match. Sometimes I'm very critical. Like I try to be as good as I can. It's hard to be perfect. It's hard to be at the highest level, especially like when you're dealing with adrenaline and then crowd and people like shouting at you. You know, it's like and you try to focus on a match. You're gonna do mistakes. It's normal. You know what I mean? But everything's gonna depends how you react to those mistakes, how you deal with it, right? So whenever I lose a match, somehow I go back home. I study a lot. I do a lot of specific training, and I try again. So that's how I got better, you know. I was like, do mistakes, fix them, and move on. Do mistakes, fix them, and move on. It's funny because the first contact that like I had with heel hook, not the first contact, but the first time that I got tapped, I was black belt already, and Damian Anderson, he was a purple belt. He inside heel hook me. I was so embarrassed because before I was like, my jiu-jitsu is so good that I don't need to learn heel hooks. There is no need. And then I got tapped from a purple belt. I'm like, oh, maybe I need to learn how to defend heel hooks. And I had to put so much time on it. So it's like my training was basically like I need to study instructional or ask people around me who knows how to do it, how to do it. So I learned first how to attack the mechanism of the submission. And I'm like, okay, let's do specific training now. And then started on bad position. Almost my foot ripped off. It was fine because that was the only way that I was gonna learn, putting myself out there to learn. And then now like it's being hard to catch heel hooks or even leg entanglements on me just because I avoiding getting there because I know where I'm stepping. So it's like I was basically like 2 3 years ago. That's when I learned like how to properly like get out from a heel hook, and now being like I wouldn't say cocky. I was just very confident. I didn't believe like on my level I'm so good passing people's guard they won't be able to find my legs and I'm fine. But I was like I just stepped for a purple belt, which is like
What are you thinking at that moment? You get caught.
that
What's in your
I,
mind?
I was like people's gonna make so much fun of me because I was a black belt already, accomplished black belt, and he was a purple belt. I think in my mind, I created like so much things that was not a thing. You know what I mean? So it's like I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna be so embarrassed, and then people's gonna post about it and blah blah blah. But that was a thing that I didn't know. But it was more because I didn't put time to learn it. But also, like, I was fighting a very good athlete. Damian Anderson training his whole life no-gi, I believe. You know what I mean? He's been training no-gi full-time for, I don't know for how long. So I'm just putting myself out there. I should be proud of myself. Not being afraid to go out there and then put myself in dangers and then get heel hook. It's fine. Just be, like, humble. Be grateful for the match, but also from the lesson. Maybe that's what I need to lose at that moment so I could improve my jiu-jitsu. 2 years later, I followed him. I beat him. I didn't make him tap, but I beat him. He couldn't get no heel hook. So like, I was like, oh, maybe that's what I need to learn and put time on learn how to do heel hooks. I felt like even after I felt like very good people who does like leg attacks and heel hooks, and they couldn't make me tap. So I was like, oh, so it's like my lessons were learned. You know, it's like I had to go through that to get better is the one step higher, you know, like step my game up and then learn jiu-jitsu. And now I try to teach people as well how to do it, how to escape, and then stuff like that. I'm not a specialist. I'm not a heel hook expert. I just know enough to not turn to the wrong side. You know what I mean? I see a lot of people like turning to the opposite side and they end up helping someone to tear the ligaments
Mm-hmm.
or they just panic oh, they don't know what it is. I just try to help as much as I can. You know what I mean? As much as I can help, especially my training partners, I'm gonna be happy.
Do you think that we need failures like this or like lessons like this in our life on and off the mat in order for us to really learn something? Like, it seems like there was a big moment in your life. The confidence was high, you were accomplished, you think that your jiu-jitsu is solid, and then this event happens and it's like reality check, no?
Yes, 100%. And it's funny because I was never the athlete who would win every single thing the whole year. I was never the super athlete, like the best of the best. And oh my God, Gabriel's gonna fight. But I was always one of them, like, whenever you see me on the bracket, like, that's gonna be a tough match. You might beat me, but I'm gonna be a super hard match. And it's fine, you know what I mean? It's like when I realize that like winning the tournament results is gonna come out from the amount of time and preparation that I put there. It's like I just go there with no pressure and I will do my best, you know? And those reality checks is like, oh, but that's gonna be always like a push for me to get better. So I was probably on a tear, like beating everybody, and then someone like stopped the way I pass guard and do a loss of guard. So I'm like, okay, so I need to get better on this now. So it was like always like I would never like be upset. I would be very sad for losing a match, but that's not. I would never let like this feeling take over me or take myself out of control. I was like learning from your mistakes and then move on. I think that's what life is about. You know what I mean? Like anything you do, like on your job, on your work, if you do something wrong, there's gonna be someone there like, hey, why did you do this wrong? Did you know it was wrong? Okay, you're doing this wrong, so do it better. Don't do it wrong anymore. You know what I mean? So like you need someone to push you and like to check, like, hey, that's wrong. You gotta get better. You gotta get better. That's how you become better in everything in life. So like you just improve.
I wish that everybody thought it that way. I mean, it just Earth would be such a better place if everybody
I
learned from
know.
their mistakes and not being so stubborn about this.
Yeah.
Listen,
I
all these
I
years, go ahead.
I wish I had learned from friends' mistakes so I didn't have to go through the same thing. But I believe when you go through that, it's a different experience. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like traveling the world is one of the things that I love the most, like besides jiu-jitsu, is definitely like traveling the world and eat, right? So I like to travel and I like to eat like local food. And then I watch a lot of like vlogs from on YouTube of people traveling the world and talking about of the experience. I was like, oh, that's cool, but I want to go myself and see it with my own eyes. I want to see how it feels myself. I don't care about how you think this country is. For some people, like it might not be the best country in the world, but maybe they just have bad experience with people was not so welcome to them, and they had such amazing time. You know what I mean? So it's like
It's just
that's
like
pretty much,
jujitsu. It's just like
pretty
jujitsu,
much.
right? Some things work for one person, other things work for another person. It's not that it's right or wrong. It's just we have a different
That's true.
interpretation of it, right?
Pretty much.
Listen, after all
That's
these
right.
years living in US, living this dream, chasing this dream, what do your family back in Brazil think about all this? I mean, you're not a
Oof.
teenager anymore. You were successful with your jiu-jitsu, with what you've done, where you live, what you're doing for a living. Like, what do they think about it?
They are very proud though. Like I'm very happy because we have like mutual friends, the whole family, right? And they always like talk about like the way they talk about me like as a role model. Imagine like I was the youngest one. I was 19 years
Hmm.
old when I left home. Everybody was above 20, right? And then I'm successful. Like I own my gym. I teach seminars all over the world, and then I compete against the best of the best, which is like it's pretty much I reached the highest level of a sport. Let's imagine like maybe I have a sister who is like sports psychologist, right? And then she reached the highest of her profession. So she's like, oh wow. So like they are always proud of me. You know, no matter what happened, they still love me. They still gonna be proud of me because they know how much time and how much I love this. You know, like when I first left home, I was just a boy. It's like I had
Hmm.
to grow up. I had to become a man in short amount of time. I had experience in the US that probably living back home I would never had. In Brazil, I had to depend on people. It's like, oh, I can count on with my sister. Oh, my brother can do that to me. In the US, I didn't know nobody who could that for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had few friends, but it, it it takes time to build up a relationship that like you can rely on people. Not rely on people, not being lazy, not being in a comfort zone, but like, hey, this is my homie, like I can count with this person anytime and they're gonna be there. So it's like they're just very proud, like, and they also like it's funny because sometimes they tell me that like I became their role model just because how disciplined I am with diet, with training, with I try to be in contact with as much people like who deserve my attention and who are in my circle, like my family and my friends. So I try to always like tell them like what I've been doing, what I've been working on, what I have been accomplished, and the things that like you don't put out on Instagram that people who doesn't care about you. There's a lot of people who are jealous and they just want you to fail. I'm not putting things that are being accomplished there. So it's like, but talking to my family, not to put them down, but like, hey, if I could do it, you can do it too. You know what I mean? It's like there is nothing is possible. I figured it out by myself. It's like with all the experience that I have done in my life. I have been on the best hotels in the around the world. I have traveled to one of the best countries in the world. But I'm like looking where I came from and where I am right now, it's just like, wow, that's a big change. I can
Yeah.
speak two languages. I can speak two languages. I know people all around the world. You know what I mean? I can teach jiu-jitsu everywhere. So that's amazing. That's the one of the most important thing, like building great relationships with my family, of course, be in touch with them, know how they are doing and everything, but also like with people that I trust in jiu-jitsu, you know what I mean? Like make good connections, learn jiu-jitsu for everybody, be humble and like, hey, I don't know how to do this. Can you guys teach me? So like just trying to be as positive as you can. The world has too many like negative people, it's like too many
Agree.
people trying to put each other down for no reason. It's like if you don't like, if you don't agree with what I do or say, just don't follow me. Just move on. You know what I mean? You don't need to do what I'm telling you or what I did to be here. You can do different. I probably on my path I did so many different things that worked out to me. But if I tell people they're like, nah, forget about it. It's not gonna work for me. I'm like, okay, cool. So just be positive, spread good word, be peace, and then just love, like no enemies. A lot of haters. That's gonna be always haters. You
There's
try.
always haters.
It's always, and most of the haters like it's people who come from the same place that you came, but they wasn't able to accomplish what you did. They didn't put the same amount of time that you did, but they are jealous the place that you are. But they were not like they were always lazy.
Yeah.
So it's
They weren't
like,
willing to put in the work like you.
hey, pretty much. So I was like, just
There
want to
was no
stay away as possible from those people. Negative energy, stay away
don't
from me.
don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. Yeah, absolutely.
No,
I mean, listen, there's no doubt that people look up to you. I mean, I'm not even talking about your family, your following, your people who watch you do jiu-jitsu and being successful, but more we talk here, it becomes more visible the positive attitude that you have, this positive mindset. And really probably thanks to that, you got where you got and you are where you are. Without that,
100%.
probably you would have given up a long time ago, which is not
True.
the case. Listen, I know you pressed on time and we're going to have to start wrapping this up soon. But what we do at the end of every episode, we have a question for you from our previous guest. Eli
Okay.
Knight was on the show the previous episode, and he asked a question, but he had no idea that you will be answering it. So think of it like a question in blind, completely blind question. Edgar is going to ask you this question, and it's going to lead into interesting end of the conversation.
All right. So
Okay.
the question is, who do you think currently has the best jiu-jitsu in MMA?
Wow. Charles the Bronx.
Who do you think has the best jiu-jitsu, period?
Active? No active?
Oh, hold on a second. Let's do active. Currently active competing.
That's a hard one. But I
I
have two
know.
that I could say like in my
Go
mind
ahead.
that I like to watch so much just because the good jiu-jitsu and the positive attitude and what they put out there is Mika Galvão and Taina.
I can't argue with
Hey,
those two. You can't argue with
it's
those two.
just like another level. And the things they do, just feel like they're drilling. I'm like, what's happening? It's like they just flow, you know what I mean? And then like they also always like support the people. They are being positive. They're always pushing people to be great outside of the mat. So that's what like always counts for me.
What's ahead of you? You are still so young. I mean, you're just starting this. The way I look at this, you're just beginning all of this, and you've accomplished so much success. What is your dream now? A few years back, your dream was to jiu-jitsu for a living. What is Gabriel's dream today?
I want to win ADCC multiple times though. As an athlete, I want to win ADCC multiple times. I want to also, outside of jiu-jitsu, definitely have a family. That's like one thing that I grew up like having. I had like I have a big family, and then I had kids around, so I love kids. So it's like just one of the dreams. You know what I mean? It's like one of the things that I want to accomplish sooner or later. So that's my dream. Definitely like being a father, be a good father. You know what I mean? It's like being an example for my kids, and then make them do jiu-jitsu 100%. And rest.
They're not going to have a choice, will they?
Like, no, they won't. It's like, you don't want to do jiu-jitsu? No iPad, no TV. You're just going to be on your room. It's like, hey,
Good
that's
luck
right.
with that.
Just like
So
that,
it's
huh?
just like, yes, I don't care. You don't want to go to the gym? Fine. You're going to be locked in your room, grounded, you know? But like, definitely like jiu-jitsu is sports. I think sports like builds characters and also teach you so many lessons that you, if you're not going through, is like lessons that you cannot learn outside of sports. So I think it's
Yeah.
important. You don't need to be a super athlete. You don't need to show me that like the best skills in the room. Just put work, and
And
that's
effort.
it. I'll be
Effort.
proud. And effort, yes. Don't give
Yep.
up. Don't quit. Easy. Be a good person. Great trained partner. That's what life's about.
So I have a quick question. In terms of your, you mentioned your achievements. You said you want to win ADCC a couple of times. What's more important at the current stage where you're at? Is it the name on the tournament or the name that you're competing against?
Oh.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Is it better to win a big name tournament going against maybe up and comers that nobody's heard about yet or things of that, or is it better to win maybe just like a super fight? Like I know you do the super fights against a name that everybody knows.
I believe like if nobody knew who I was, definitely like winning a tournament would put my name out there, right? But if
Yeah.
I are winning a tournament and not having many great competitors, let's say like the best of the best are injured or they were not invited to this tournament, maybe it was a tournament was made for me to win, people won't give it the same like, I would say, respect.
Yeah.
Sorry. But like if I put myself out there, like I'm fighting Mikey Musumeci. He won worlds multiple times. He's an American hero. He's like just like, wow, he's the best of the best. Like that's the people that I want to be fighting and beating, you know? But definitely like winning ADCC this year is gonna do a big change in my life. Many people will know who I am. Like I know I'm getting there. I'm just getting started though, you know, like I'm just 27 and I'm just getting on my prime now. Everything started to getting, I wouldn't say easier, but it started to get easier because now I have connections with the best, the biggest events in the world. Now I have a good sponsor. Now I can make a living just being a pro athlete. So it's like I don't have to hustle every single week and be a referee. I don't have to teach private every day. I don't have to teach. I teach that because it's a different sort of income. Yes, I like to teach. I like to work. It's part of like who I am, the way I am. But I don't have to. You know what I mean? So it's like I can focus. Like I've been focused for this match for 5 weeks straight, just training full time, and I have 3 more weeks to go, which is gonna be full time training for this like learning more jiu-jitsu, improving more, sharpening up. I believe like we are in the phase we are just sharpening up and cutting weights to the big event for the big day. After I
So,
beat, after I
if
beat
you had
Mikey
to
and
pick,
win, sorry.
sorry, go ahead.
After I beat Mikey and win, a lot of open like the door is gonna open for me. It's like it's gonna be a big change for me. But also like after I win ATC, will you do the same? You know what I mean?
So if you had to pick one opponent that's on your list and is your dream fight, regardless of weight class, regardless of whether they are active or not, one of all times, who would you pick?
Like someone to fight me?
Yeah, someone to compete against.
Sheesh, that's a good one.
Do you have a superhero that you want to fight?
Honestly, not really. I like to watch good jiu-jitsu though. Like I like
Okay.
good maybe good match. When the matchmaker is good, he's gonna make like good exciting match. It's
Mhm.
like if I could, I would love to fight Marcelo Garcia just to get beat up.
I was actually wondering if you would say that.
Just to get beat up though. He was just like another level. I don't even want to fight him. I just want to train with him. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So like I just want to feel like how is training with someone that good. Because Marcelo was something else. You know what I mean? So I was like, and then I watched so much him, and then like growing up, it's just like that's crazy. Another guy that I watched growing up when I was a blue belt was Bruno Fassini.
Oh, yeah.
Because
That's not a legend.
I fought rooster weight all the way to purple belt. And that's when I moved to US. I started gaining a lot of weight. But I was like, oh, I want to be a good rooster weight. But like bones start getting heavy. I start getting lazy with diets. And it's like, yeah, today I'm cutting weight to featherweight. So it's like, forget about that. But like Bruno is one of the best and a very exciting fighter. Like you go there and he does his things and it works. Pass people's guard, he plays guard, he jumps on submission, and then like so beautiful to watch. So it's like I don't want to fight him. He's also like retired from competing, I believe. But like just have the opportunity to train with him would be amazing. You know what I mean? So it's like having the opportunity to fight like with the OGs, like with the people who build and pave what I'm enjoying now on the sport would be amazing. Just to feel how it is. They are in different stage of their life. They don't have to prove anything to me. You know what I mean? So like, I just want to one day tell like, okay, I trained with Harley Gracie.
But you know what's interesting about this? As you are dreaming about training with them, there is thousands, if not millions, of people who dream about training with you. And what you are doing is paying back to the community. And I think that's like big thing that during this whole conversation has really stuck in my mind is it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter where you're going or your successes. You're really trying to reach out to the community and support those people who really need it because they do need it. And if you don't contribute, then nobody else might. And then, they won't have the opportunities that you've had. So for 100%. That, I do want to say thank you. Thank you for being positive. Thank you for really being a role model. Like, you were kind of joking about your family looking at you as a role model, but you truly are. You truly are a role model, and we need more people like you. We need more people with positive outlook on life. So for that, I do appreciate it. If anybody wants to connect with you as we're wrapping this up, can anybody connect with you on social media? Are you on website, social media? Where are you at? Quickly mention that because we'll put all of this in the show notes. So if anybody wants to link up with you.
Just my Instagram, the person who manages everything. I'm always like on my requests. A lot of messages go there, like talking about technique or super fight or sports or whatever it is. I'm the person who deals with it most of the times. And my Instagram is there. And I think it's the easiest way, honestly. It's like just shoot me a message and I'll be there trying to help.
We'll make sure to put that in the show notes. So if you guys want to connect with Gabriel directly, feel free to do it. I mean, what a brilliant mind, what a young, positive contributor to what we love. And again, Gabriel, thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out with us for last hour. Edgar, last words?
Oh, thank you very much. And I love the positive mindset, positive outlook on things, as Tom's mentioned. And I do. I also think that we need more positive role models in jiu-jitsu.
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. It was our first time talking. I hopefully we can have more times. It's always fun talking and then people know about experience, different backgrounds. Everybody has the path to wherever they are or wherever they're going. So I personally love to watch podcasts and listen to people's story and learn something. Everybody has something to teach you. just be open-minded, and that's pretty much it. Like, thank you guys. Just appreciate everybody like who's gonna listen to it, and then hopefully you guys can learn something. Stay positive, stay like humble, and then work hard for your dreams.
I love it. Let's wrap this up
Thank
for
you.
today. Gabriel, once more time, thank you for being here. We'll
Thank
see
you,
you
guys.
around.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.